It's Wednesday, May 8th, 2024. Let's talk about the news. From the Financial Times, Russian finance flows slump after U.S. targets Vladimir Putin's war machine. A fresh round of U.S. sanctions and bans have prompted many lenders to avoid working with anyone or anything, even tangentially connected to Russia, which has triggered a slump in trade volumes between Russia and some of its largest trade partners. The U.S., EU, and other primarily Western nations have been slapping sanctions on Russia and Russia-related things since Russian President Putin decided to full-scale invade Ukraine a few years ago. And while some of those initial bans and threats worked decently well, Russia's economy continued to do okay as its government figured out ways around some of the most significant limitations. More recent efforts have been aimed at the financial service backing for such trades, essentially cutting off the flow of resources required to buy and sell goods at an international level. And while this is not foolproof or loophole-less, dodging these restrictions now requires a lot of middlemen and a fair bit of risk for anyone dealing with Russia, which means they have to work harder and spend more to get what was previously cheaper and more easily accessed. From Reuters, UK's Lib Dems to submit motion of no confidence in Rishi Sunak's government. The UK Liberal Democratic Party said on Monday that it will submit a motion of no confidence in Prime Minister Sunak's government in order to force a general election in June, earlier than the election Sunak has previously said he plans to hold in the second half of 2024. Sunak's Conservative Party lost 474 local council seats in last week's elections, while Labour and the Lib Dems gained 186 and 104 seats respectively. The Conservatives are expected to handedly lose the next wave of parliamentary elections, though Sunak has said that he believes the eventual outcome will be closer than polls currently predict. The last time such an election was forced by a no-confidence motion in the UK was in 1979. And from the Wall Street Journal, EV makers get 2-year reprieve on tax credit restrictions. The U.S. Treasury Department has announced that electric vehicles containing graphite from China will still be eligible for EV tax credits through 2026. This is a pivot from the department's previous stance, which would only provide these credits for vehicles that were built almost entirely using U.S.-oriented supply chains. China currently dominates the global EV market, including the materials required to build these vehicles and their batteries, and the US government is hoping to flesh out and bulwark its own version of the same by providing monetary incentives and resources for car companies to refocus appropriately. But under current conditions, few, if any, cars would be eligible for a completely US-made EV tax credit, and this wiggle room is meant to help address that supply chain shortfall in the interim, giving them a few more years to get their non-Chinese graphite supplies locked in. If you're finding some value in one-sentence news, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com. And you can support this and other related projects, like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts, at understandery.com.